All right, welcome back. It's been a week, and just as kind of like a little reminder, these are the four that I talked about last time that all had some kind of design element or aspect of them that I wanted to basically take, rip apart, and make like a whole new version of it, and hopefully make something that's usable and appealing visually and just kind of feels good in the hands while you play. And I guess I'll just quickly go over the aspects that I liked from these. So on this one, I liked the ridges. I did not like this. This should not have a 0.3 deep counterbore because it makes it too short. I liked how it had a flat bottom here and the radius was a little bit more aggressive. Call me crazy, but I kind of like it flattened out like that. But, personal preference, I guess. For this one, I like the layered aspect. I like these kind of levels that they got going on. A lot of weight decrease on this, and I also think it would have looked a lot cooler if it had more kind of equal spaced out levels. I think I said it was basically missing one more level here, and it would have looked a lot cooler. And I kind of went crazy with that. I'll explain that later. For this one, I said that basically every aspect of this was basically horseshit, except for the knurling. I actually kind of liked how this looked. I think it looks very fancy, very cool, and it's very grippy, very cool to touch and hold and whatever. Looks very premium. And for this one, I liked this whole aspect right here. It bothered me at first, but I kind of got used to it, and it looks kind of cool to me. But it could definitely be done in a more appealing way, and again, I did go kind of crazy with that, as I'll explain in a few minutes. But the weight saving from this is very, very good. So I definitely kind of took that and ran with it in kind of a stupid way, and I'll show you how in just a few moments. Now, just as like a little bit of a reminder, the target weight is around 33 grams. Now, no. Yes. No. And no. But technically, weight doesn't matter, because if you're using a Japanese style stick with the springs on them instead of the rubber grommet, then all of these would work. There would be literally no problems. But since I use a K-lever with the rubber grommet, I basically need to get it down to about 30 something grams for it to work how the 35 tension rubber grommet is kind of spec'd out to be. That's what my lever has, is the 35 something grommet. I don't know what the fuck the units are, but basically none of these really work right except for, like I said, this one. But I did order every single kind of grommet off of Arcade Shock, and I do think that's actually coming today. So I do think I will actually make a video of me testing out how different weights impact different tension grommets, and to see, what kind of tension grommet I would need to be able to run, let's say, for example, a 56 gram top, for it to kind of swing back the same way that the plastic top does on the 35 tension grommet. I don't know if tension is the right unit that I'm saying or whatever, but, who fucking cares? You can correct me in the comments if you want. So, to go over, I'll go from basically my worst fucking Frankenstein creations possible to the ones that I really like. Now, I don't have a lot, because these ones kind of took me a little bit more time because they're a little bit more complicated to make, and also I only had about a week to work on them. So I'll start with the worst, most diabolical thing I think I made to date, and it is this. This is essentially completely hollow. This is this with like the entire upper radius shedded off and made about 100 thousandths taller and completely hollowed out. So 55 grams, and take a wild guess what this weighs. 29. It is lighter than the plastic one. And that fucks with your play style more than I think anything else. Not to mention this massive gaping hole. The amount of times I was playing and my hand would like slide and it would kind of get like in there like that was honestly kind of unreal, and I fucking hate it. This is a monstrosity. I hate this thing. I way overdid it. I went too deep. I kept on like making the hole bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, save weight, save weight. And I went so crazy trying to save weight that I essentially overdid it. And this is like fucking worthless. It is so light. I don't know who would possibly want this. It looks off. I hate this like capped off style up there. It like has to have a better radius or else it just looks just like shit. And yeah, I mean, I hate this thing. I played like 5 games with it because I'm like, it has to work, right? Lighter is better. Lighter is better. It is not. This is ass. I hate it so much. But again, this was kind of like the first experiment. And I was really pissed that I messed up a pretty good concept because I actually had it down to about like 40, 43-ish. And I was like, more. And then I ended up just kind of ruining it. So that's, my own hubris there for thinking I could make something that's better. So this is essentially trash. I would need to tone it down completely for it to be usable. And I would really need to fuck with the design because that's just not appealing to me personally at all. And I don't think it is to anybody, if I'm being honest. So up next we have the 2 kind of mushroom style layered ones. So yeah, for comparison, they're a lot bigger, thicker, bigger, more kind of proportional, I guess you could say. For this one, I did kind of like a 1, 2, 3 layer. And for this one, I did the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're both kind of the same size, except for one of these, again, I went a little crazy and I was like, fuck it. I'll like invert the layers on the inside. If you can see, it's kind of like a staircase. And I was rushing like crazy because you can see kind of the finish on this other layer right here is kind of shit. But these two, okay, for reference, that is a very good weight. But this one, it's too light again. I played a few games with this, and it's not very good. Again, the weight, I did too much. I was playing God, and it didn't work out. I got fucking smitten. So maybe you guys prefer this design. I kind of like this 4 level one. I'd even go thicker if I'm being honest. I'd make it wider because this is 1 3/16. I'd honestly make it 1 1/4, and I think it would look a little bit better, and it would add a little bit more weight, around that 40-ish grams. Because this one, let me tell you, this one actually works, and it worked well, and it looked pretty cool. Now it looks kind of like a mushroom, yes, but I don't like the way that the hole looks on this one. If I'm being honest, something just about the hole on this one specific, it doesn't bother me so much on this one. I don't know why, but on this one, it just really like pisses me off. And it doesn't really seem right. But again, regardless of that, when I mounted this for the first time and I played a few matches with it, I was like, oh, wow. It feels good. The way that I measured out like kind of the thickness of my fingers and the height of this, because I was fucking with the heights of all of these. Some of these are like taller, smaller, or shorter, around that line. And I measured it out so that when I play, it kind of goes, you guys see how it goes like that, where my pointer finger hits the top layer, my middle finger, that middle layer, and my ring finger hits this kind of bottom layer, if you can see that. And it honestly felt very good. It felt very intuitive. It felt like, I don't know. It was interesting, especially when I tried out kind of playing a different play style rather than my kind of like smacking it from a distance like that. I actually held on to it and had like my fingers pressed around it like that, and it felt really good. I liked the way like, my knuckles kind of rolled into it. My fingers kind of rolled into it naturally with like, you know, all of them being kind of staggered and going more inwards. And it felt good. The weight felt good. The sizes, all of these sizes felt good. The playstyle felt good. So this is actually something I might run with a little bit more. I might try to figure out a different method. Like I was thinking about maybe putting a thread in here and then making like a cap that you can screw into it. Maybe a different color. You can make it out of like brass or something, or maybe copper. And screw that cap in here so it kind of plugs up that hole and makes it look you know, more closed and gives it kind of a little bit of an extra flair, and maybe a little bit of weight if you want something heavier. So I actually do like this one. This one was a success. So again, this one I made too light. I went a little bit crazy. And the 4-layer, I don't know. For this one, I guess you could say I went for the same kind of concept here with my fingers, but you can see that the size is kind of off and it doesn't match. They need it to be, you know, longer. So the 4-layer, you know, maybe make this bottom one a little bit shorter and expand all of these an equal kind of size to get my fingers to match it a little bit more. But I will say that this one basically hit it right on the head. Weight-wise, size-wise, and just general feel, I think it was pretty good, except for that hole. I don't like that too much. So that's all those. Now, we come to two very interesting ones that I think are ones that when I get the rubber grommets in and I get, you know, I have a little bit more time, I'm going to try to tweak some of the sizes of them in general. But these two are designs that I really, really like. Check that out. Look at this. That's pretty cool. So I don't know if you can, I mean, you guys can probably tell, but I took the idea of the ridges and I added them. I took the idea of the knurling and I added it. And I took this more kind of flat, kind of bottomed out idea and I ran with that. And I also took this kind of, you know, rounded hole and ran with that as well. And I came out with this. I had no general idea for the design for this one. I was just kind of rocking and rolling and just plugging in a bunch of code, and this thing kind of ended up coming out. And I really, really like this. I like it a lot. So you may be asking, is it playable? It is. It's a little heavy, but it's playable. It's at 49 grams, and to kind of my surprise, it works pretty well. It feels really, really good. This knurling, it's like basically the way I did it is I made the knurling and then I ran the facing tool over it one more time to kind of smoothen out any of the like sharp knurls, because knurling is a tool that essentially shoves itself into the material and like prints itself in and pushes material out. So a lot of the times when you do a really aggressive knurl, it'll be a little bit sharp or kind of uncomfortable. So usually a lot of people will just like polish them off, or they'll run the facing tool over it again to get it a little bit more flat or kind of more soft to the touch, I guess you could say, and not as sharp. And it ended up coming out like this. Now, I did equal layered ridges here, and I thought it would be really cool to kind of like outline the knurl with two kind of equal ridges. And it ended up looking really cool. Now for the hole, to save weight, I made it basically the same size all the way down, and I added this kind of, I don't know if you can see it in there, but it's just like an indentation basically into the wall. So what that did was it freed up more material and it shed a few grams down, but it kept the hole a relatively good size. So it's not like overbearing like this one. But also I made the design where the radius here kind of more equally and not as sharply flows into the hole here, so it doesn't look as out of place as this. So I don't know what your guys' opinion is, but this one is probably my favorite. Not only is it my favorite, but it actually works. So today, when I go pick up my grommets, I'm going to go put in the 40 grommet into my arcade stick, and I'm going to play with this thing because it actually does work. It feels a little bit off, but I did get used to it, into the 35 one that I have currently, and it worked. I got used to it and it felt very good. I only actually just took this off of my stick right now to kind of make this video about it. So this is something that I think I'm going to make a bunch of versions of. Exactly this. I saved the program. I did everything. I have basically all the dimensions memorized for it, and I'm going to try to replicate this multiple times over and over again. And I think this is the one that I'm going to send out to anodizing, which is a process that'll essentially chemically, what it does is the aluminum here chemically gets like penetrated by an ink, and it like strengthens the material. But what that does is I can do colors like blue, green, red, gold, whatever. But what that does is essentially it's a few, nanometers or whatever deep into the material. So if you scuff it, let's say I fucking bash it on something and it chips, the chip won't go back to the bare aluminum. It'll still be that same color. So, instead of like paint where if you like scratch at it, it'll, pop off or something, and it'll just be like this kind of silverish aluminum under like the blue, that won't necessarily happen. It'll look a lot cleaner. It'll look a lot cooler. And it won't get damaged as easily, I guess, presentation wise. So this is definitely one that I'm going to make about, 10 pieces of, and kind of send it out and get it anodized to the certain colors. And I think this in gold on top of my arcade stick, which is, all white with the gold buttons, and then now like a metallic gold knob, would look super sick. Now, since this one worked so well, I made a version essentially that's a little bit more of an aggressive tilt, smaller knurl, and kind of a shape and size that's more similar to my previous one here, except I kind of capped it off more on the top, along with adding the knurl and the ridges and whatnot. And this one is obviously going to be a little bit heavier, actually quite a bit heavier. We're looking at about 64 grams. So this one isn't usable on, in my opinion, isn't usable on the 35 grommet that I have now. But again, I'll test all these out when I get my new grommets in, and we'll see how this performs. But I think this one looks really cool with the polished aluminum look. I know I bead blasted this one because I literally put this in and out of the machine 1,000 times because I was just like, oh, but what if I added the knurling? Oh, but what if I added one more ridge? What if I drilled the hole in here? What if I wanted to add this? And I just kept on like taking it out, measuring it, putting it back in, taking it out, measuring it, getting a new idea, putting it back in, like doing all that shit. So it ended up being, scuffed and scratched and everything. And I was like, ah, shit, it doesn't look good in its kind of bare aluminum form. So I'm going to have to bead blast it to get it to look like this. And to be quite honest, it looks pretty good bead blasted. But man, does a nice, fresh machined piece of aluminum look good when you do it right. Now I'm getting a lot better. I know I said previously I do not like machining on aluminum. I'm getting better at it. I'm learning a lot of new like little tips and tricks and here and there. I'm learning better speeds and feeds. I'm getting better with my tooling choices and whatnot. So it's actually becoming a lot easier. And so now I'm actually going to be probably more capable of producing a finish like this more often. But I think it just looks so good. I mean, I don't know if the camera is necessarily picking it up, but in person it looks great. It feels, super premium. I like this little bit of knurl, so it's only right on the pointer finger. So when I was holding it and I was trying to play it this kind of way, instead of, my weird slapping kind of way of playing, it felt awesome having that like feeling of knurling on your finger. So it's kind of like in that perfect position, you know what I mean? Where it's like, it's perfectly on the exact spot that you want that finger to be on, not a little bit down, not a little bit up, not where it feels kind of odd. You can always find that position where your hand just kind of wants to be naturally. So this is definitely one that I want to run with as well, and I'm going to heavily test out on my stick and play quite a few games with. And if it works out, then I'm going to go absolutely crazy with this design because it just looks so good. I initially thought that these ridges would really ruin it, but they just add such like a flair to it. It just looks so cool to me. So, these two are the real winners here. And I am actually really, really, really proud of these. And maybe they won't be everybody's favorite. A lot of people like the traditional bat top style, and trust me, I do too. But there's just something about these that just like, it's like two fucking supermodels and then like that beautiful girl next door. You know what I mean? You got the El Clasico right here, and then you have like the new wave coming in. The old school rock and roll, and then you have like the new order, the Eurythmics. You got Duran Duran over here, Wham. So, obviously this one will always probably be the best, but in my opinion, and from what I played with and how I'm going to go forward from now on, I'm going to be using a variation of these two. And, I think stay tuned because I might be kind of doing different versions of this, whether or not the knurling, whether or not, what kind of aggressive angle I want to take, what steps I'm going to take next with this hole, whether or not I'm going to keep it, whether or not I'm going to find the way to plug it, like I said, with like making maybe a copper plug or a brass plug and threading it or whatever. There's going to be a lot of different versions of these two, but the concept will essentially stay the same. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And I don't know when I'm going to update next on this. I think the next video that I plan on making is showing how the grommet tension impacts weight, how these perform on different grommet tensions, whether or not I think the 35 is the best. Maybe I'll play with the plastic, top that I have currently. The green one that came with my stick, and I might test out, the 40, 45, 50, 55 and see how that impacts my play style in general, because I always thought, hey, if it's, harder to move it, I like it like that. I like it when I like it when it's hard to play, because like I mentioned so many times, I really play aggressively on the stick. I know people have told me, oh, you're supposed to be gentle with it. I just get too into it. I really like Tekken. I play aggressively as hell. I get into it. I'm emotional about it. I get mad and everything. So I'm going to be smacking the controller one way or another. So I think a high tension one or more, stronger rubber will feel right for me. But I'll make a video updating it, and maybe, if somebody's having the same struggle as me, where maybe 35 is a little too low, maybe it's a little too easy for you, maybe you want something higher, I'll definitely talk about it, and I'll probably show you guys how to, unscrew and change the grommet as well, because I don't know if that's really readily available on the internet. I haven't really Googled it, but hey, maybe I can help you out for anybody that has, a Make Stick X Prime, taking the whole lever out. I can show you guys how to do that, just in case you're scared of hurting it or whatever. But I think that's kind of what's next on the docket. So again, love these two. These are the ones I'm going forward with. So yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in through this kind of weird saga of making these. And till next time.